Good evening, I'm Samriddhi Kesi and these are the headlines of the hour. Selection process of chairperson and members of Truth and Reconciliation Commission and Commission of Investigation of Enforced Disappeared Persons begin confusion after law amendment raising concerns. Government prepares to involve private sector in carbon trading. Law formulation at the final stage targets to reduce carbon emissions to zero in 20 years. More than 50 countries contact Trump in bid to negotiate U.S. tariffs. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu heads to Washington for trade talks. And Sunrisers Hyderabad currently clashing against Gujarat Titans in today's match of Indian Premier League. The committee formed on March 24th to recommend officials for the two commissions related to transitional justice has started its work. The committee, which was unable to make recommendations after working for 2 months last time, has entered a new process. It was hoped that the work related to transitional justice, which has been stalled for 18 years, would gain momentum after the amendment of the law, but the delay in recommending officials has further widened the gap to the judicial process. There's a lot of work to be done, from recommending people who can work impartially to the committee's work for justice and preparations. The confusion after the law amendment is raising even more concerns.
The recommendation committee formed to recommend officials for the two commissions related to transitional justice has started its work, but it has stated that it will not own the work done previously. This means that the work done through the previously formed recommendation committee will be repeated. The committee has concluded that all processes have to be started from the beginning to be completed within a 2-month time frame. Accordingly, public opinion has been sought on the draft of the selection process for the recommendation of the chairperson and members of the commission. This shows that the committee is currently in the process of finalizing the working procedure. After that, it will proceed to the stage of discussions with the victims and inviting applications.
अब हामीले त्यसलाई जति सक्दो छिटो अब victim पक्षहरुसँग बसेर अन्य प्रक्रियाहरु अगाडि बढाउने भन्ने कुरा निर्णय तिनीहरुको पुनः त्यो आवेदन गर्ने लिने भन्ने कुरा भएको छ प्रक्रिया अगाडि बढेछ.
This committee has to carry out the work of taking applications, publishing shortlists, and conducting interviews and presentations. Last time, the appointment of officials to the commission could not take place due to the lack of political consensus. It cannot be said that the committee will not reach the same point again. Victims who have been waiting for justice for a long time are still worried about whether people who can conduct impartial investigations will be selected.
खोज नीति पनि गर्दिनु पर्यो अनि सरकारले पनि सबै कुराहरु यो जसुकै गए पनि तिनीहरुको पनि कुरा सुन्दिनु पर्यो अनि हाम्रो यतिका वर्ष भइसके अनि पत्तो केही छैन त्यो पत्ता लगाइदिनु पर्यो मरेको छन् बाँचेको छन् त्यो खबर दिनु पर्यो.
Some victims have expressed their opinion that people who are accountable to them should be appointed to the commission, especially when they are finding it difficult to make a living. Victims are still skeptic that transitional justice will gain momentum because it has been used only for political bargaining for a long time. They suggest that an objective criteria should be developed to recommend impartial individuals.
राजनीतिक र सामाजिक पक्ष मनोवैज्ञानिक पक्ष पनि हो यो. त्यसैले यी सबै कुराहरुलाई चाहिँ गम्भीरताका साथ विश्लेषण गर्न सक्ने मान्छेले मात्रै र यो द्वन्द्वलाई राम्रोसँग बुझेका मान्छेले मात्रै यो न्याय सम्पादन गर्न सक्छ. द्वन्द्वलाई आफ्ना अनुकूल त्यसैले यसलाई चाहिँ के छ भने यसलाई नेगेटिभिटीबाटै हामीले सुरु गर्न पनि भएन. भित्र एउटा चाहिँ के छ भने हामीले यस भित्रबाट दक्ष योग्य व्यक्तिको खोजी गरौँ र यसलाई सुरुदेखि नै चाहिँ कसैलाई बायस गर्ने गरी चाहिँ अगाडि नबढौँ.
In the previous committee, 156 people had applied for the position of the commission's official. Among them, 39 people, including 8 for the two chairpersons, were selected in the first list. The committee had interviewed them and also requested their action plans. However, recommendations could not be made due to the lack of political agreement. There are more than 60,000 complaints in the Truth and Reconciliation Commission and more than 3,000 complaints in the Commission on Enforced Disappeared Persons. persons. It has been said that some time will be given for complaints on issues related to violence against women. It is certain that this will increase the number of victims' complaints. Due to this, it is necessary to be aware that if the recommendation committee is not serious this time, it could be another mechanism to add to the suffering of the victims.
The Ministry of Forests is in the final stages of drafting the Carbon Trade and Management Regulations 2081. Officials say that once the regulations are in place, it will unlock the potential of carbon trading in Nepal. The ministry, currently in discussions with experts and stakeholders, also plans to include provisions for the private sector participation in carbon trading within these regulations. But what exactly is carbon trading and how can Nepal benefit through it? We have a report.
In 2024, global carbon emissions reached 374 billion metric tons, a 0.80% increase from the previous year. Studies indicate that Nepal contributes 0.27% to this global figure. This translates to approximately 15.49 million tons of carbon emissions. The Nepali government has adopted a policy to reduce the country's annually increasing carbon emissions. Nepal aims to further reduce its annual carbon emissions by 30 million tons by 2030 and achieve a negative emission of 50 million metric tons by 2050. This means Nepal plans to absorb more carbon than it emits. The plan allows industrialized nations with higher carbon emissions to purchase these carbon credits from Nepal, which Nepal can then claim internationally. The government is also preparing regulations to allow the private sector to purchase carbon from countries that have reduced their emissions.
यसमा निजी क्षेत्रको संलग्नताको कुरा चाहिँ यसमा अभाव खड्किएको अवस्था थियो र निजी क्षेत्रहरूलाई पनि यसमा समावेश गरेर जाँदाखेरि अझै प्रभावकारी हुन्छ र उनीहरूको पनि बिजनेस हुने र हाम्रो पनि अन्तर्राष्ट्रिय जगतसँग व्यापार गर्दा सहजीकरण हुने जस्तो महसुस भएर यसलाई कसरी चाहिँ आबद्ध गरेर जान सकिन्छ त भन्दाखेरि हामीलाई अहिले भइरहेको कानुनी संरचनामा नयाँ तर्जुमा गरेर जाने आवश्यक महसुस भएपछि हामीले अहिले कार्बन व्यापार र व्यवस्थापन सम्बन्धी नियमावली तर्जुमा गर्ने चरणमा चाहिँ हामी अगाडि बढिरहेका छौं।
एउटा संस्थाले मात्रै त्यो पनि इनर्जी सेक्टरमा मात्रै हामीले 8 लाख टन बराबरको चाहिँ हामीले कारोबार गर्न सक्छौं भनेपछि हामीसँग विभिन्न अरु क्षेत्रहरु पनि छन्। हामीसँग म्यानुफ्याक्चरिङ क्षेत्र छ, हामीसँग वेस्ट छ, एग्रिकल्चर छ। भनिसकेपछि यो विभिन्न क्षेत्रहरुलाई चाहिँ तपाईले सेगमेन्ट गर्नुभयो भने हाम्रो पोटेन्शियल एकदम ह्युज छ अनि हामी आफै पनि कार्बन उत्सर्जन गरेर एटमोस्फियरमा हाल्ने भन्दा हामी चाहिँ एउटा कार्बन सिङ्कको रूपमा एउटा देशको रूपमा रहेको छौं। त्यसकारणले गर्दा हाम्रो जुन अमाउन्ट अफ पोटेन्शियल छ त्यो पोटेन्शियल चाहिँ जति हामीले रिपोर्टिङ गर्दै जान्छौं त्यति नै ल्याउन सक्छौं।
Carbon emissions in Nepal originate from sources like forest fires, industries, vehicles, and both biodegradable and non-biodegradable waste. To mitigate these emissions, the government and the private sector are implementing programs focused on sustainable forest management, energy development, electric vehicle subsidies, renewable energy, and afforestation. Nepal has also been involved in the RED Plus program since 2008, which focuses on conserving and sustainably managing forests to enhance carbon storage and reduce emissions. Currently, there are over a dozen programs and several pilot projects underway, including initiatives to reduce carbon emissions and increase carbon storage in the forest areas of 13 districts from Bagmati to Western Tarai.
जुन पेरिस सम्झौताले परिकल्पना गरेर भिजनिङ गरेका आर्टिकल 6 अन्तर्गत 6.2, 6.4 र 6.8 को मेकानिजमलाई हाम्रो नियमावलीमा सम्बोधन गर्नुपर्ने थियो। खास गरी नेपालमा सृजित भएको कार्बन क्रेडिटलाई विदेशी संघ संस्था उद्योगहरूलाई चाहिँ बिक्री गर्न पाउने वातावरण, त्यसमा हामीले करेस्पोन्डिङ एडजस्टमेन्ट गर्नुपर्ने विषय, हाम्रो एनडीसी मा समावेश गर्नुपर्ने विषय र हाम्रो चाहिँ सकारात्मक सूचीमा कुन-कुनमा काम गर्न सकिन्छ भन्ने समावेश गर्ने विषय, कस्ता उद्योगहरू कस्ता क्षेत्रहरूलाई चाहिँ हामीले कार्बन व्यापारमा समावेश गर्न सकिन्छ भन्ने विषय चाहिँ हाम्रो कानुनी ग्याप थियो। त्यो सन्दर्भमा नेपाल सरकारले आफ्ना कार्यक्रमहरू मार्फत चाहिँ यसलाई अगाडि लैजाने निर्देशन बमोजिम अहिले कार्बन व्यापार नियमावली हामीको मस्यौदा गरेर अन्तिम चरणमा पुगेको छ।
Carbon trading is a system where developed countries pay countries that reduce carbon emissions through forest conservation or other environmentally friendly practices in exchange of carbon credits. Carbon trading originated from the Kyoto Protocol established at the COP3 World Climate Conference in 1997. Furthermore, the Paris Agreement mandated that each country prepare a nationally determined contribution document, NDC, and commit to reducing carbon emissions. Nepal's long-term goal is to achieve net zero emissions and establish itself as a carbon-neutral nation between 2021 and 2045.
The Nepal Teachers Federation has announced an educational strike from tomorrow to further intensify the ongoing teachers' movement. The Federation has announced the strike to close all schools across the country and ensure the mandatory participation of teachers and staffs in the Kathmandu-centric street protest. Federation President Lakshmi Kishore Subedi has urged all teachers to participate in the movement. The Federation has also urged all teachers not to engage in any work such as answer sheet checking, result publication, training workshops, seminars or educational tours during this period. The Nepal Teachers Federation has been continuously protesting since 2nd of February to demand the enactment of the school education bill. Refusing to engage in formal dialogue with government, the Federation has continued its street protest in Kathmandu since Wednesday. Today, teachers also demonstrated by blowing whistles on the Maitikar-Baneshwar road section. The participation of teachers in the Kathmandu-centric movement has affected school educational activities and the SCE answer sheet checking. The Ministry of Education has appealed and sent letters urging them to engage in the talks, but the Federation has been refusing. The Ministry of Education has stated that the SCE answer sheet checking will be delayed if the teachers' movement does not stop. The National Examination Board has scheduled the SCE results to be published in the first week of Nepali month of Ashad. And in this context, in our Public Voice segment today, we have asked in several provinces what's your take on the Kathmandu-centric protest initiated by the teachers of community schools. Let's take a look at what they had to say.
सरकारले पनि सुनिदिनुपर्ने हुन्छ शिक्षकहरूको मागहरू हैन अब नसक्ने कुराहरूलाई सहमतिको आधारमा गएर अनि त्यसलाई छिटोभन्दा छिटो टुङ्ग्याउनु पर्ने हुन्छ
शिक्षा क्षेत्रमा प्रतिकूल असर नहुने गरी र शिक्षकहरूको माग पूरा हुने गरी शिक्षा ऐन ल्याउन जरुरी छ
मागहरू पूरा गर्नलाई आन्दोलन नै गर्नुपर्छ काठमाडौँ केन्द्रित नै हुनुपर्छ भन्ने कुरा चाहिँ सरासर मलाई गलत जस्तो लाग्छ
शिक्षक जस्तो बौद्धिक मान्छेहरू चाहिँ आन्दोलनमा उत्रिनु भनेको एकदम दुःखदको कुरा हो
समय अनुसार चाहिँ शिक्षकको माग पूरा गर्न शिक्षा ऐन तत्काल लागू गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ
जिल्लामा बसेर विषयवस्तु उठान गर्दाखेरि कसैले पनि नसिक्ने भएको कारण र केन्द्र काठमाडौँमा गएपछि चाहिँ केन्द्रीय स्तर भएको कारणले
शिक्षकहरू जायज माग लिएर आन्दोलनमा छन्
शिक्षकले उठाएका कुराहरू पनि पूरा हुनुपर्छ र शिक्षकले चाहिँ अनुशासित पूर्वक चाहिँ आफ्ना एजेन्डाहरू पूरा गर्न लाग्नुपर्छ
शिक्षकहरू भनेको एउटा बुद्धिजीवी वर्ग हो एउटा दक्ष जनशक्ति उत्पादन गर्ने साधन हो त्यही भएर उनीहरूका जायज मागहरू सरकारले चाहिँ समयमा सम्बोधन गर्नुपर्छ
सरकारले समयमा नै सम्पूर्ण शिक्षकका माग सम्बोधन गरी यथाशीघ्र प्रत्येक शिक्षकहरूलाई आफ्नो ठाउँमा पठाइदिनु हुन म हार्दिक अनुरोध गर्दछु
आफ्नो मागका लागि लोकतन्त्रमा यसरी यो ऐन आउनुपर्छ भनेर जुन कुरा राख्नु भएको छ यो ठीक छ शिक्षकहरूको माग चाहिँ सरकारले पूरा गरिदिनु पर्यो
आन्दोलन गरेर राखिराख्नुभन्दा वार्ता मार्फत यसको समाधान खोजेर शिक्षकहरूलाई विद्यालयमा गएर पठन पाठन गर्ने वातावरण निर्माण गर्नुपर्छ सरकारले
2028 सालमा आएको शिक्षा हैन अहिलेसम्म लागू हुने दुःखद कुरा हो
It is time now for a short break. We have more news coming up. Welcome back. The National Planning Commission has projected that it will take at least 2 to 16 years to complete the under-construction National Pride projects. Based on the investment made so far and the amount allocated over the past 3 years, the Commission has projected that it will take at least 1.5 decades to complete the projects. However, pressure has been mounting to remove projects that have not been completed for a long time from the list of the Pride projects.
The National Planning Commission has divided the Pride projects into 4 categories based on the time and cost of completion. According to this, the Commission has projected that the projects will take 2 to 16 years to complete. Based on the current allocation, it is estimated that the Melamchi water supply project and the Hulaki highway will be completed in 2 years. However, the construction of bridges on the Hulaki Highway may take additional time. Likewise, the National Planning Commission has prepared a report stating that the Babai Irrigation Project, Pushpalal Mid-Hill Highway and Rani Jamara Kularia Irrigation Project will be completed in 4 to 6 years.
अहिले हुलाकी चाहिँ राजमार्गको कुरा गर्नु यो फर्स्ट प्रायोरिटीमा पर्छ हाम्रो एनालाइसिसमा अहिले चाँडै सम्पन्न हुनेमा पर्छ कतिपय परियोजनाहरू 20-25 कतिपय खानेपानीहरू 60 वर्षमा सिद्धिन्छन् त्यो सबै एनालाइसिस गरेका छौं अनि त्यो सांसदज्यूहरुसित सब हामीले डिटेलमा चाहिँ उहाँहरुलाई प्रेजेन्टेसन गरेका छौं त्यो उनीहरुले हामीसित चाहिँ एभिडेन्स छ अहिले त्यो एभिडेन्स चाहिँ मन्त्रालयगत रूपमा ल 60 वर्षमा चाहिँ खानेपानी प्रयोग हुन्न मतलब सम्पन्न हुन्न भने कसरी जाने हामी भनेर उहाँहरुसित छलफल गर्न हामीले यो भन्दा अगाडिका परियोजनाहरू कस्ता थियो भने वित्तीय चाहिँ उपलब्धि कति भयो अनि त्यसपछि हैन अनि त्यसपछि भौतिक उपलब्धि कति थियो भन्ने हुन्छ हामीले त्यो एनालाइसिस गरेका छैनौं 11 वटा इन्डिकेटरहरु राखेर त्यसको चाहिँ सबै चाहिँ एनालाइसिस गरेका छौं जसले चाहिँ के गर्छ भन्दा हामीले चाहिँ प्रायोरिटाइजेसन कसरी गर्ने भन्ने कुरा देखाएको छौं
Considering the current pace of budget allocation, it will take 12 to 15 years to build the Budi Gandaki hydroelectric project and at least 15 years to construct the East-West electric railway, metro and monorail. As the government has started to work of preparing the budget for the upcoming fiscal year, there has been a demand to focus the budget only on projects that will be completed in the new fiscal year. In discussions held in the Parliamentary Committee, lawmakers have also been demanding the removal of projects that have not been completed for a long time from the list of pride projects.
ती राष्ट्रिय गौरवका योजनामा बजेट छुट्याउन यो वर्षदेखि चाहिँ केही वर्ष रोके पनि केही फरक हुँदो रहेछ किनभने 30 वर्ष 40 वर्षदेखि चलिराखेका छन् ती खासमा आज राष्ट्रिय गौरवका योजना छैनन् ती चाहिँ जस्तो कुनै सिँचाइ आयोजना छ त्यो सिँचाइ योजना थाल्दाखेरि राष्ट्रिय गौरवको आयोजना थियो जग्गा प्लटिङ भइसक्यो अब सिँचाइ गर्न चाहिँ जग्गा बाँकी पनि छैन तर हामी राष्ट्रिय गौरवका योजना भन्दै अरबौं रकम चाहिँ छुट्याइराखेका हुन्छौं
The government has stated that it will focus the budget on result-oriented projects in the coming fiscal year. However, government officials appear to be confused about which projects to cut.
It is time for our segment Public Pulse, where you text us with your opinion. But before today's question, let's take a look at the results from yesterday's poll. Yesterday, we had asked you what can be done immediately to reduce pollution. 48% voted for option A, control fire, 22% voted for option B, implement odd even rule in traffic, and 30% voted for option C, raise awareness. Here's today's question. What's your take on National Planning Commission's forecast that it would take 16 more years to complete construction of East-West Railway? Option A, possible if resources are secured. Option B, reality of development works. And option C, improve the work performance. The voting is on. Type NEWS, select option A, B or C and send it to 34001 to share your opinion with us. That is all for the moment. Up next is News in Nepali. Thank you for watching. Good night.